Hello and welcome to Spardha Lines, your one-stop destination for the civil services preparation, UPSC, KPSC and other relevant examinations. Today we have something exciting for you. What is it? We are bringing a new initiative as part of our daily current affairs discussion. What we will add is some of the preliminary examination practice questions which are very helpful for your preliminary examination. So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and all that I want you to do is make sure that you like these videos and also share it with your other fellow aspirants as well. Let's get started and look into the first question for the day. Tele-MANAS launched by the Government of India is related to consumer protection, cyber security, Kisan services, mental health care service. What is the answer for this? Please put it on the comment section. Take a pause and now look into the video. What is this Tele-MANAS all about? This was launched by the Government of India primarily to look into the mental health care service. Why have I picked up this practice question? That is because of the reference that has been given in the Hindu article. So this article here is speaking about Tele-MANAS Seva scheme. What is this scheme all about? How does it help is what we have to look into. When we look into this Tele-MANAS scheme, what is it speaking about? It is speaking about the mental health issues. What does it stand for? It stands for Tele Mental Health Assistance that will be provided by the Government of India. How do we get in touch with these doctors as well as the psychologists? What we have to do is dial this number, that is 14416 or 1800-891-4416. So the minute we dial these numbers, we will immediately get in touch with the counselors. Who are these counselors? These are the people who are trained to address the mental health issues. So immediately as soon as a person dials this number, they would be able to connect to a counselor. The counselor would be able to understand what are the problems that a person is going through his life, the depression phase that he is going through, and ultimately will suggest some recommendation which a person who is currently facing the mental health issues will be able to address. So basically this is how the mechanism works. The caller dials the Tele-MANAS helpline number. It connects with the IVRS based system. The counselors are trained and are also accredited as well. They will look into and ask what are the person's problems and concerns that the person is facing, and ultimately they will give their recommendation as well. And in the tier 2, the caller will require in-person services. So let's say for example, he is not able to address any of these concerns via the telephone call or via the communication. In that particular case, in-person services will also be provided in tier 2 services as well. So this is what is called as Tele-MANAS Seva. So this Tele-MANAS Seva was initiated last year basically to provide mental health concerns related issue. Why did it come into picture? That is because we have the World Mental Health Day that is celebrated every year on 10th of, which is observed every year on 10th of October. Yesterday was the World Mental Health Day. Since we observed it yesterday, that is why this particular topic is in news. When you look at this particular topic, we have many celebrities as well. In fact, number of celebrities, I don't want to name their names, but they have also said that they did go through this process of depression in themselves. So at that particular moment, whenever they are facing depression and whenever they feel that there is no one to take care of them, what you require is some human shoulder where you can rely upon and ultimately voice out your concerns. So at that moment, if someone is able to give you that protection and the safeguard, you will be able to slip through that particular module of suicides. Most of the suicides that are committed in India are all momentary, where they happen to take this haphazard step primarily because they feel that they are alone. They would not be able to face the pressures of the life, and that is why this tele service has been initiated. So remember, we have the Tele-MANAS service which has been initiated to address the mental health concerns. We also have what is called as the Mano Ashraya. This happens to be a dashboard on rehabilitation homes, halfway homes in the country. So this dashboard provides state or the union territory wise names of the dashboard on rehabilitation homes as well as the halfway homes, including the number of homes, intake capacity, occupancy, number of persons languishing in the mental health institutions. These are the very two important parameters from your preliminary examination point of view. So if you're liking these new type of initiatives that we are coming up with, please do like and also comment on our YouTube channel videos. Now let's look into the next article. This article here, we have picked up one of the questions just so that you understand what are the types of questions that can be anticipated in UPSC as well as in the KPSC examinations. We have the Global Gender Gap Report. It is released by which among the following institutions? Take a pause, answer, put it on the comment section. What is it? We have OECD, we also have World Bank, World Economic Forum, International Labour Organization. So this Global Gender Gap Report is released by the World Economic Forum. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Global Gender Gap Report of World Economic Forum. So let us try and understand first about this report, and then we will also understand what is this article trying to explain. When we speak about the Global Gender Gap Report, first important parameter from your preliminary examination is it is published or released by which of the organizations. So remember, it is released by the World Economic Forum. This for the very first time was published back in the year 2006. This is once again very important from your preliminary examination point of view. What does it speak about? As the very name denotes, Global Gender Gap Report. This basically speaks about the gender differences between the man as well as the women. This speaks about what are the concerns related to the women, and we recently also had economic award that was given, Economic Nobel Prize, which was given to one of the women. Why? Because it spoke about gender parity, because it spoke about gender differences. It also spoke about gender pay package as well. So generally when we speak about men and women, they are not paid equally, and that is what this Global Gender Gap Report is all about, which basically emphasizes on the fact that we have the men and the women are not paid equally with respect to the men for the kind of work that they do. There are other various issues between the men and the women, that they are not treated equally. There is no pay parity. There are issues with respect to the other areas. So all these areas will be considered as part of this index. So the report's gender gap index ranks countries according to the calculated gender gap between women and men in 4 key areas. Which are these 4 key areas? So whenever you have this particular module being constructed or taken into picture, what you have is consideration of certain parameters. What are these parameters? Health, education, economy and politics to gauge the state of gender equality. So we have economic participation and opportunity, outcomes on salaries, participation levels, access to high skilled employment, whether women who have studied, who have degrees after degrees, are they being treated equally with respect to the men? Are they being given enough of opportunities? And this is what is taken into consideration by this particular report. Then what we have is educational attainment, outcomes on access to the basic and higher level of education. Then what we have is political empowerment, which is outcomes on the representation in the decision making structures, health and survival, outcomes on life expectancy and sex ratio. So when we speak about political empowerment, this article speaks about the recent reservation bill. The author goes on to say, when we speak about political empowerment, the recent bill that was passed by the parliament with respect to 33% of the reservation for the women happens to be a landmark decision taken by the government of India. Now, if we speak about Global Gender Gap Report, it was recently released in the year 2023. The first one was in 2006. The recent one was in 2023. And what you have to put on the comment section is, which are the top 3 countries which are ranking high when it comes to such report, and which are the bottom 3 countries that are present when it comes to such report. So please put it on the comment section. So the Global Gender Gap Report, which are the top 3 performing countries, which are the lowest countries in the ranking, please put it on the comment section. So according to this report, which was given in 2023, it goes on to say that at the current rate of progress, it will take 131 years to close the global gender gap, and it is 149 years in the South Asian countries including India. So if all the gender gap that exists on the economic front, on the educational front, on the political front, on the health and survival front for the developed countries and other countries, it will be about 131 years to make sure that they are completely equal, and it is about 149 years for Southeast Asian countries including that of India as well. Such has been the abysmal state when it comes to women empowerment in most of the countries. This is where the author brings into consideration some of the viewpoints. What are these viewpoints? Generally, it is believed that it is because of the incompetencies of the women. But is it so? No. If reservation is given, let's say for example, we recently have the Government of India introduced about 33% of reservation for the women. When they are given 33%, most of the people started clamoring that it is about merit. Whoso is able to win the elections, they should be able to contest. And whenever these people are 33% of reservation is provided, it is promoting incompetency. No, says the author. Why? That is because when women are not even given the opportunities in the leadership role, when patriarchy is stamping the authority on the women, how is that they would be able to reflect on their thoughts? How will they be able to come up to this competition level? Only when there is an affirmative action that 33% is reserved for the women, they will be able to showcase their skills, and that is not incompetency. Incompetency is a presumption. Incompetency is an assumption. When I have to showcase my leadership skills, I have to be given an opportunity. If the opportunity is not given, how will they show their competencies? So incompetency, or whatever ways and means that they are trying to achieve, that this is about incompetency, reservation should not be given, is not right. Even if there exists such incompetency, what we have to promote is upgrading to the skill development. If people are provided the required skill set, they would be able to empower themselves, and at the same time the number of women sharply spiraled downwards in the leadership positions, not because of their incompetencies but because of the hegemony and the patriarchy, says the author. The author also takes into picture couple of examples on the political arena. What are these examples? Let's say for example, the author says that there are few countries which have supported leadership roles of the women. They have become prime ministers, they have also become presidents as well. We have Jacinda Ardern, former prime minister of New Zealand. She was able to enter into this leadership role. We also have Bangladesh as well. We've also had Indians who have made it to the helm of the affairs in the form of Indira Gandhi ji. We also have presidents who are at the helm of the affairs in India. We've also had prime ministers. Similarly, what the author also brings into perspective is when India was able to afford universal suffrage immediately after independence, many countries took many years to provide this universal voting suffrage, which ultimately means India was well in advance that it wanted to treat equally. But at the same time, we speak about the oldest democracy, which happens to be United States of America. Till date, it has not seen one single woman president of United States of America. In fact, the author also takes into picture the example of Hillary Clinton. She wanted to enter the fray of the president of United States of America. She did contest the elections as well, but who happened to win the elections? It was Donald Trump. The people of United States of America were not able to test the leadership of Hillary Clinton, while some of the other developing countries have given this responsibility to the women, but that is not the same when it comes to United States of America. So the author says that we have had examples in the past where Hillary Clinton, who has had the political acumen, she was able to understand and work through the historical past. She has had updates in the past. She has seen how the political circles work, and despite she having enough of knowledge and political acumen and astuteness, she was still not able to reach the doors of the president, and that is because of people not trusting women into the leadership. This has to be completely eliminated, says the author. The author also brings into picture the other example as well with respect to Indira Gandhi ji and Rajiv Gandhi ji. When it comes to Indira Gandhi ji, she was very active in the politics from a very young age. Her father happens to be Jawaharlal Nehru, who happened to be the first Prime Minister of independent India. So she, being the daughter, she was almost with her father, so she understood the politics of our country. Despite she understanding the politics of our country, she immediately was not able to become the prime minister. Why? That is because she was stopped because she happened to be the woman. So she had to wait for a very long period of time. So what is the author trying to emphasize? It is not about nepotism or any other thing, but the author is trying to emphasize that she was exposed to the political nuances of our country. Despite she knowing about the political nuances of the country, she was immediately not able to become the prime minister after her father passed away, primarily because she was the woman. But let's take the case of Rajiv Gandhi. Rajiv Gandhi, who was the son of Indira Gandhi ji, who had no political understanding. He did not understand the politics of the country. Despite he having no political understanding and the political knowledge, he went on to become the prime minister immediately after the death of Indira Gandhi ji. What is the comparison the author is trying to say? Immediately after the death of Nehru ji, despite having the understanding of the political changes that is in the country, she was not able to become the prime minister. She had all the political knowledge, but Rajiv Gandhi ji, he did not have any political knowledge, but as soon as Indira Gandhi ji passed away, he went on to become the prime minister. So it is this change that we have to introduce. So whether women have to come to the political leadership or at any leadership level, yes, they have to come to the political leadership at the helm of the affairs, and this has to be on the basis of merit, not on the basis of gender, says the author. And there have been other impediments as well, where women have themselves become the impediments in some specific periods of time. During the roundtable conference held in 1930s in London, a letter was written on November 16, 1931 by Sarojini Naidu and Begum Jaharan Shahnawaz, presenting a joint manifesto by All India Women's Conference, the Women's India Association, Central Committee of the National Council of Women in India. They demanded neither discriminatory nor favorable treatment on the basis of gender in legislative representation, thereby rejecting reservation. So this idea has to be in comparison with other section of the idea. Begum Jahan Shahnawaz, a Muslim League member, on the other hand, advocated along with Radhabai Subramanian a minuscule 5% reservation for the women. While Begum Jahanar Shahnawaz studied at Queen's Mary College, Lahore, Radhabai Subramanian had the privilege of attending Somerville College, Oxford. Both the women were from elite backgrounds, affluent families and upper classes. So what the author is trying to say is, there are women who had the political backing, they come from rich background. These people will have the backing of the people from their family. So these people may feel that reservation is not necessary. Why? Because they feel that merit is ultimately important. But how will merit come into picture when there is no equality, when there is no uniformity, when there is no right start as well? So if the women have to fight it out with the men, the patriarchy may not allow. So it is at this particular moment, if they are provided a reservation, a start would be made, they will be able to show their political professionalness, and ultimately they would be able to barge or break this historical patriarchy that exists. So reservation is the need of the hour, primarily because there might be few people who may assume that reservation is not required, so on and so forth, but there is necessity of the affirmative action, primarily because the patriarchal mindset has to be removed. In fact, see, Rajagopalachari had also opposed Radhabai Subramanian's choice to fight from a general seat. So there has been some apprehensions in the past. There have been apprehensions that women may dominate over the men. These things will have to be completely eliminated. So the author goes on to say that the reservation bill passed by the parliament was much needed for the women, and ultimately this will increase the political representation, political empowerment of the women, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about the Maldives elections. When we speak about Maldives elections, what you have to understand is they have presidential form of elections. What is the form of elections that we have? We have the cabinet form of elections. We have the prime minister at the helm of the affairs. But when it comes to Maldives, what they have is the presidential elections. So they will have people who will be electing a president for about 5 years, and this person will be the president of Maldives for about 5 years. The constitution also prescribes that this president who will be elected for a maximum of 2 terms similar to that of the United States of America. So let's assume for a moment there is a person who is the president of Maldives. So he becomes the president for the first time and he can go on to become the president only for the second time. So there will be only 2 terms that a person will be able to become the president, and after that he would not be able to become the president of Maldives. And do note, who will be the people who will be electing this person? Any person who is above 18 years of age, his name is in the electoral roll, he will be able to enter into the electoral fray and ultimately vote for the elections. Why are we discussing about it? That is because we recently had the Maldives elections, and in this, People's National Congress candidate and Malay mayor Muhammad Mizu won the election with 54% of the votes, defeating Ibrahim Modi Soleh and becoming the president-elect of the Maldives. So this ultimately caters to 2 important factors. One is the domestic factor with respect to the Maldives, and second is with respect to the external factor to the Maldives. First, when we speak about external factors, most of the articles in the Western media as well as in the Indian media is speaking about that this could be a prospect with respect to India and China. We have certain political parties in Maldives which selectively have an approach of lifting and tilting towards China, and we have political parties which support us, which is India. So this is what is being presumed, but that is not the case, says the author. Why? That is because this happens to be an instance where free and fair election, which is the representation of Maldives, has come into the picture. So they were able to ensure that free fair elections took place in the Maldives. And this election is not about political parties favoring China or India. It is about economic well-being of the people of the Maldives. So people voted not on the basis of the external sector or international images and control, but it was on the basis of employment, it was on the basis of economic prosperity, it was on the basis of inflation, it is on the basis of outcome in the economy. So the internal factors made a primary role, and it is not the external factors, is the perspective. Added to it, why did the existing president lose? We have the existing president who happened to be Ibrahim Muhammad Soleh. Why did he lose? That is because in the history of Maldives, no incumbent has been re-elected in the Maldives. Who is the re-elected president? A person who gets elected for the second time. But in the history of Maldives, no president has been elected for the second time. So that is how the politics of Maldives work. So no incumbent has been re-elected in Maldives. So he, being the incumbent, did not become the president for the second time. And added to it, once the ruling MDP party split, so they had a major split in the political party. Many people also started moving to a different political parties as well. And also Mr. Nasheed, who happened to be the primary person in the political party, also exited from the political party. And as a result, you had the incumbent president who went on to pass away. This is one part of the story. The other part the author also takes into picture is what could be the likely changes. Now that we have the new president in Maldives, what could be the likely changes that he may introduce? Why he may introduce change is because he is assumed to be closer to China, while the previous president Soleh was closer to India. Since he is closer to China, he may bring couple of changes as well. What are these changes? At the request of the president-elect Mizu, President Soleh agreed to shift former President Yamin from prison to house arrest. Mr. Yamin is serving as a long sentence, 11 years for the corruption. So Mr. Yamin, who was the president of Maldives, he ultimately was closer to China. So he was closer to China. So many people now say that President-elect Mizu may be closer to China as well. And Mr. President Yamin was against India. He wanted to throw India out of Maldives as well. He was completely always in favor of China as well. And at the same time, now that he is caught under the corruption scandal, he is thrown behind bars. Now he would be shifted to house arrest. He will not be behind the bars, but he will be house arrested. That is the major change. And permission for India was given. Previously, we had the President Soleh who had given permission for India to operate small military detachments in Maldives. This could also be changed Why? That is because they were vehemently opposing India's presence in Maldives. We had President-elect Muzo who was opposing this. His election campaigns were on the basis of ousting India from Maldives. Why? Because they felt it is impacting their sovereignty, and previous President Soleh had given permission to operate in small package where India's military presence was felt in Maldives. But then now with the new president-elect, he may change this, and the operation of Indian military in Maldives may be taken out as well. So what is that we have to look into? When we look into the external sector, we have the new president-elect. He has three options right now. One is revert back to the India out campaign of former President Yamin, or continue the India first policy of the outgoing president, or have a calibrated policy where there is balancing of relationship with key partners, especially China and India. So the author goes on to say we have to wait and watch what will be his policy. As of now, it looks like he's tilted towards China, but we do not know. That was his political campaign. Maybe that was to win the elections, but only after he becomes the president, we have to see how he'll mold his relationship with India as well as with China. At the people's level, there is a positive outcome about India as well. People have positive image about India. Why? That is because there have been number of projects that have been executed by India. Extensive developmental work and numerous small community developmental projects have been completed, such as building community centers, children's park, then there is student ferries between the islands. All these have been constructed by India. Thousands of Maldivian youth also come to India for training and capacity building programs in the past 5 years, and India has also been providing Maldivian security officials training and programs with respect to Indian military academies. So they come up and they also get trained as well. India is also a major source of tourism for Maldives, imports and investments, and jealously nurtures its role as the first responder every time an emergency strikes the Maldives. So each time an emergency, whether it is natural or it is a man-made, we have Maldives which has the support of India. For example, in 2004 tsunami or during the 2014 water crisis, we have had India support Maldives as well. And whenever we have also had man-made issues like in the politics, India has also helped Maldives. India had likewise flexed its military muscle in Maldives by helping the government against an attempted military coup in 1988. So what is that we see? That India has a good relationship, but going forward, will the new president-elect Muzo continue the same relationship with India is what we have to wait and watch. What are the measures that we should be able to take? We have some impediments with respect to India and Maldives relationship. If we are able to address, what we can further increase is better relationship. First, the Colombo Security Conclave, which includes India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, Bangladesh and Seychelles, should be strengthened, showing tangible outcomes in the maritime security and the development of the blue economy. And these people should also become part of the Bay of Bengal initiative of multi-sectoral technical and economic cooperation, which is nothing but BIMSTEC. And they also have to have communication at the strategic level, and media organizations like Indian media organizations. It can be print as well as the visual media. These people will also have to further ensure that we have much better programs. And when it comes to infrastructure projects, these infrastructure projects, when it comes to China and India, we have one major difference. What is it? China has deep pockets. It will be able to execute any of these projects in a faster and in a much better pace. But when it comes to India, India is also executing infrastructure projects, but it is comparatively having a delay. So what is it India will have to work? India, if it is given a particular project, it has to rework on its timelines and ensure that a particular project is completed as soon as possible, similar to how the Chinese operate. If we are able to do so, then these addressing things will ultimately increase the relationship and bonhomie between India and Maldives, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says we need evidence-based traditional medicine. What is this article in gist? You don't have to go through this article. This article primarily goes on to say all that you have to understand is that we have some of the traditional medicines. Which are these traditional medicines? Let's say, for example, we have the Ayurveda. or let's say for example we have the Unani, or let's say for example we have the Siddha. These are some of the traditional medicines. So the author in this particular case says that we have all these traditional medicines. Yes, they can be given to the people because we have little evidence as to how it works. But then in some of the cases we have Ayurveda or Unani or Siddha or any of these traditional medicines in couple of countries. What happens is you have the modern allopathy medicines. The allopathy medicines is based on the scientific rationale. What is the scientific rationale? What we will have is the clinical trials. These clinical trials ensure that whether a particular medicine works or not will be tested according to the scientific principles. It goes us through various phases as well, and ultimately whether this particular trial is successful or not will depend on different phases, and only then this medicine is administered to the people. So what we have is the scientific data. So whether it has side effects or not, everything is happening on a scientific rationale. So we have evidence to prove that whether it will work or not. We have the scientific evidence, we have the data, a survey would be conducted, and then a placebo effect survey will also be conducted as well. But when it comes to Ayurveda, Siddha or Unani, it is working for few kinds of issues. But when we say for major issues, how is the clinical trial conducted? What is the data that we have? Do we have a sample survey? How many people have been administered with this particular medicine? If we have some evidence, then we can spread the wings of Ayurveda, Unani or Siddha. So until then, wherever there is a prescribed module that it will work and we have relevant data, only for such medicines, only for such diseases, medicines will have to be given. But for the rest of it, until and unless we have a progressive scientific rationale, such medicines should not be absorbed. Why? That is because we do not have enough data for the same. Only when we have the data, we can go ahead and give these medicines to a certain disease, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article is important from the preliminary examination point of view. The article here makes a mention of the Mishmi Hills. So where is this Mishmi Hills? This happens to be in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. So remember, we have the Mishmi Hills. Where is it? It is in Arunachal Pradesh. So this article further makes a reference to three important pointers. What are these important pointers it speaks about? It speaks about field assistants. What is this article speaking about? It speaks about the importance of the field assistants. So you have number of researchers. These researchers go to a particular forest area. So the researchers may be from a particular background who may not know what that forest area is all about. So when we have the local people take them, explain them, this will help the researchers working in that area is the first key parameter. So the author says it is not just the input of the researchers but field assistants who know that particular locality. Their assistance is of utmost importance because they know the endemicity, they know the utmost nature of this particular locality, and since they know it, it is very important that their feedback is taken into picture by the researchers. Then this article further speaks about the Dibang Wildlife Sanctuary. It also makes a reference to Camlin Tiger Reserve, Namdapha Tiger Reserve, Pakke Tiger Reserve. So whenever you have these wildlife sanctuaries, what you have to remember is it becomes very important from the preliminary examination point of view. Where are all these sanctuaries and the wildlife parks? Where are these tiger reserves? Please put it on the comment section. Next, the article also speaks about Mishmi Takin. So this Mishmi Takin happens to be an animal. It is the national animal of Bhutan. So when we speak about Mishmi Takin, its IUCN status happens to be endangered, which is very, very important from the preliminary examination point of view. Further, the article makes a mention about Miju Mishmi tribe. In northeastern India, this Miju Mishmi is also known as Kaman or the Kaman, are one of the three tribes of the Mishmi people of Tibet and Arunachal Pradesh. They speak languages of the Mitsu branch of Tibetan Burma, and the Kamans practice animism. These are some of the important factors from the preliminary examination point of view. So kindly take a look into it. Now let's look into the next article. This article is speaking about PCA, or what is called as the prompt corrective action. It is a system that RBI imposes on banks showing signs of financial stress. The regulator considers banks as unsafe if they fail to meet the standards on certain financial metrics or parameters. What are these financial metrics? It includes profitability, asset quality, capital ratio and debt level. What do we understand by prompt corrective action? So we have a bank. What is a bank? It is a financial institution where we all deposit our money, and the banks also give loans to the people as well. What if the loans that are given to the people turns into a non-performing asset? What is a non-performing asset? A non-performing asset is something that where the bank has given a loan, and this loan where the premium amount or the interest is not paid for more than 90 days, it becomes a non-performing asset. So the bank comes under the stress because it is given loan, it is expecting the people to return these loans, but when people fail to, this ultimately becomes the non-performing asset. So there are certain criterions that is defined by the Reserve Bank of India, which is that profitability of a bank, asset quality of the bank, capital ratios of the bank, debt level of the bank, they have to follow a prescribed guidelines given by the RBI. If it is not being followed, if the bank is under stress, in that case RBI immediately steps into picture and imposes what is called as the prompt corrective action. So when prompt corrective action is imposed, it means that the bank is under financial stress. It has to take certain measures to correct the way of its mechanism as well as its governance. So the central bank grades each of these factors based on the actions depending upon the grade or the threshold level, categorized from 1 to 3, where 1 is the lowest of the lot and 3 being the highest based on how banks stand with the respective frameworks. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topics. And if you're liking these initiatives, please do like, subscribe to our YouTube channel and also share it with your fellow aspirants as well. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.